Boker Tov, everybody. Once again, I'm just studying Torah and going through the Parsha Tazria Metzora. And I'd like to just share what I've been studying today. And we come to Parsha Tazria Metzora. And also I was going through the Haftarah, which is 2 Kings, chapter 7, verse 3 to 20. And what is the Haftarah about? The Haftarah, it relates to how the Parsha deals with Tazria Metzora. And we come to 2 Kings, and it talks about four men, lepers, that they've been kicked outside the gate, outside the city, and they relate, or they inform the city of Shemron that they were saved through a miracle. And Saras is what we call leprosy, but it doesn't really mean leprosy. It doesn't really mean that. The reason why a person is called Metzora, it's an acronym for Motzi Shemra, a person that speaks Lashon Hara. And he becomes a Metzora. This is curable. Like, it's not like today, as we know, leprosy, where a person is just completely physically in trouble. They can't really cure themselves from this, but this is curable. It's more of a spiritual blemish. And we read in Kings about these four people outside the city gates that why are they outside? Because the Torah states that a leper cannot stay inside the city. The four lepers are outside. They're excommunicated because they spoke Lashon Hara, and they became lepers. Now, the background of Kings is that now the city of Shemron, the capital of the 10 tribes, is being besieged by Aram, which is modern-day Syria. And there's a famine, and the people are starving in the city, and there's a blockade. These four lepers, they're starving. And so what do they say? They say, listen, if we're going to hang out here, we're going to die. Perhaps we should just throw ourselves at the mercy of the Syrians, and maybe we'll have a chance of survival. Maybe they won't kill us. Maybe we can actually have some food. And maybe when we survive, we have nothing to lose. And there's no food here, they say. So in verse 6 of Kings, of chapter 7, it says, Hashem caused the Aramean camp to hear the sound of chariot and the sound of horse and the sound of a great army. And they said to one another, behold, the king of Israel has hired the Hittite kings and the Egyptian kings to come upon us. So they stood up and fled into the evening. They abandoned their tents, their horses, and their donkeys, and the camp just as it was, and they fled for their lives. And these Metzorim arrived at the edge of the camp, these four lepers, and they came to a tent, and they ate and drank, and from it they carried away silver, gold, and garments, and they went and hid them. Okay, there's no one there. A big miracle happened. The army fled, and they say it's not good what we're doing. It's not good. It says they hid them, and then they returned and went to another tent, carried away from there, and they went and hid it. One said to his fellow, we're not acting properly. And he says, Hayom hazeh yom besora. Today is the day of good news. Today is a good day of good news. This is the good news, the Besora, the gospel. Yet we remain silent. That's what they say. We remain silent. And so they can't go inside, but they go to the gate of the city. Hayom hazeh yom besora. A great salvation has happened. They go to the people, to the city. They go back to the brothers, and they explain what happened. They're outside the camp. A great salvation never came. What is the message? That a great salvation never came from the leaders, the elders, the big shots. The message is, we don't decide where the message comes from. We don't decide who Hashem chooses to deliver a message. He can use anybody. He can use a secular Jew. He can use someone that looks impure, to give the message of salvation. And that's pretty amazing. And also this reminds me of Sanhedrin 98. Sanhedrin 98, there's a story in the Gemara, and it says, Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said to Eliyahu, when will Moshiac come? Eliyahu said, go and ask him yourself. Yehoshua asked, where is he sitting? And Eliyahu said, at the gate of the city, which in the footnotes of the Talmud it says this is Rome, which is also which Judaism recognizes as Christianity. Although rabbis kind of stay silent on that. They don't want to let the secret out. Just kidding. But it says, he who sits among the Yehoshua ben Levi says to Eliyahu, how will I recognize him? And Eliyahu says, he sits among the poor who suffer illness. He unties one bandage and puts on a fresh one. Yehoshua ben Levi went to the Moshiac and said to him, when will Moshiach come? When will he come? And the Moshiach said to him, today, Hayom. Later on, Yehoshua came back to Eliyahu and said to him, what did Moshiach say to you? He thereby guaranteed that Yehoshua ben Levi says, he thereby guaranteed you and your father will enter into the world to come as he greeted you with shalom. And Yehoshua ben Levi said to Eliyahu, he lied to me. Eliyahu said to him, this is what he said to you. He said that he will come today, Hayom, if you listen to his voice. And the sages are quoting Psalm 95:7. Today is the day of salvation. Today is the day. And also in Parsha Tazria, Vayikra, chapter 13, verse 12, it actually in Tazria talks about one who becomes a Metzora, one who has leprosy, one who has these blemishes. It talks about three different blemishes. But then we come to chapter 13, verse 12, and it says, if the tsaras will erupt on the skin, and the tsaras will cover the entire skin of the affliction from his head to his feet, wherever the eyes of the Kohen can see, the Kohen shall look at him. The Kohen shall look, and behold, the affliction has covered his entire flesh. Then he shall declare the affliction to be pure. Having turned completely white, it's pure. What's going on? He's covered from head to toe in leprosy. The other three cases are just little blotches on the skin, and the Kohen says, impure. But here, he's covered head to toe in this. Covered completely white. Why is the Kohen saying he's pure if he's covered from head to toe? And this is because, on one level, the sages say that this represents someone who claims to be pure, someone who thinks that everything he's doing is all good. He doesn't even recognize his affliction. Even when he's doing something bad, he thinks it's a mitzvah. He thinks he's pleasing Hashem. He doesn't see the illness within him, and he's got too much of an ego to realize that he is blemished. So the Kohen is basically saying, you're pure. Even though he's not, you're not going to know. Even if I told you were impure, you would still think you're pure. You're pure. This is what it's saying. He's a lost cause. But on a deeper level, this is even relating to Moshiac. What happened with Moshiac? Moshiac ben Yosef is taken outside the camp. And he's afflicted. In Sanhedrin 98, in the commentary, Rashi associates the Moshiach with the bandages. He refers to him as the leprous scholar, meaning, and he associates it with Isaiah 53. He who bore our transgressions and our iniquities, he became impure. Rashi says this. Even though the anti-missionaries will say Isaiah 53 is all about Israel, but Moshiac is with Israel. You can't have Israel without Moshiac, and you can't have Moshiac without Israel. And so, sorry, anti-missionaries, but we know that this can be related to both. And Moshiach is outside the camp. And what happened? He became poor for our sakes, the Brit Hadashah says. It says that he took on all our sin. He put it on himself. He became completely impure, completely from head to toe in this sickness. He bore our sickness. But he's called pure because he went and purified us, purified himself, and he went down first and then rose up. And this was good. This was pure. Also, the Or Chaim even associates that when Metzora decides to take action to become pure, to do teshuvah and all of these things, it talks about two birds. It talks about the two birds in Parsha Metzora, and it says he does this procedure, and he takes one of the birds and kills it, and the other he lets free. And in verse 3 it says, the Kohen shall go forth. This is chapter 14, verse 3. The Kohen shall go forth to outside the camp. The Kohen shall look, and behold, the Sarah's affliction has been healed from the Metzora. And the Or Chaim says, the Kohen shall command, and he shall take the one being purified 2 live clean birds. These 2 birds that Hashem will take for the Jewish people who are being purified are symbolic of the 2 Moshiachs who will be appointed by Hashem to save the Jewish people. Or Chaim first explains why the birds are fitting symbol for the souls of the Moshiachs. Afterward, he explains the role of Moshiach and how they are alluded to in our passage. And the Moshiach are called the birds because, firstly, that is how all lofty souls are described as known in the Zohar. And furthermore, we find the Redeemer, Moshiach, is described with the words of the sages as a bird. And it says, and here for you is a quote of the Zohar in Parsha Balak. And it says, and from that cave a great and superior bird will grow, which will dominate the world, and he will be given royal authority. The quote from the Zohar ends here. The bird in the passage of the Zohar refers to the Redeemer, who will be the ruler during the time of the ultimate redemption. And so he says, one is Moshiach ben Yosef, or even another word for Moshiach ben Yosef, Moshiach ben Ephraim, which is really not a literal term of the tribe of Ephraim, but it relates to Moshiach ben Yosef and Moshiach ben David. And we see that the one bird is killed and the other is set free. And so Moshiach ben Yosef is doing the job to prepare the way for Moshiach ben David. And this is the laws of Tazria, Metzora, and relates all to the Moshiach. And even in the beginning of the parsha, I could go on for a lot more about when a woman conceives and gives birth. The Or Chaim even says this has to do with the woman is Israel and the labor pains coming before Moshiach. And so I just wanted to share these little insights on the parsha with everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. It's mind-blowing how Moshiach is hidden right in here. He's supposed to look like a leprous one. He's supposed to look like one that salvation wouldn't even come from. He's supposed to look impure. Wake up and see. Today is the day of salvation. Hayom Hazeh. Baruch Hashem. May everybody have a good week. Shavua Tov.